say, to introduce our next award than with this famous quote from the great Steve Jobs. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the ones who see things differently, the ones you can't ignore because they change things, the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world, and the ones who do. Here's to the round pegs in the square holes. What Steve would term a round peg, we acknowledge tonight as JPEG, AKA the Joint Photographic Experts Group. I was very proud of myself for doing photograph with JPEG, you guys. I'm still not over it. Which has initiated special recognition for compression variables that have been universally adopted in a standard that preserves digital image order and its tangential yet essential impact on visual workflows. Check it out.
JPEG 1 has been going on for 27 years, and everything indicates it has very good future in front of it. Every image, and by extension also video, by nature in digital form represent a huge amount of data. First reason JPEG standard exists is to really reduce the size of these files to something that is reasonable to manage, to store, and to transfer at reasonable cost and at reasonable time.
Everybody started to take pictures using JPEG. As I said, we didn't expect it. Today we have in that area 5 billion mobile phones that are taking, just a mobile phone, taking pictures, and many more pictures than the analog cameras would. I say that this is one of the so-called human heritage standards. And the human heritage standard, especially it is connected to some content, it will, in my opinion, not go away.
Accepting on behalf of JPEG are Teruhiko Suzuki, Ishvan Sebastian, and Turaj Abrahimi.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It's an honor really for me to be here and say a few words on behalf of JPEG Committee. Of course, this award is very well deserved and a unique recognition, especially for longevity of a format that evolves in an environment that is known to move very fast. This happened, of course, because JPEG engineering team over a quarter of a century ago created an amazing technology. Some even call it an alien technology from the future. But also, and as much, it's been because of the hard work of all JPEG committee members. Currently about 400 experts who since then have been working to maintain and to extend this standard. They have continued seeking and enabling new applications for this standard to be used. I would like to make a special thanks to JTC1, which stands for Joint Technical Committee, on the auspices of ISO and IEC, to SC29, to SG16 of ITU. These three major international standards were instrumental in making JPEG successful because it gave it credibility. In addition, to outstanding scientific and technical achievement and very credible patrons, the decision of making JPEG a freely accessible and open technology was one of the important factors that made the standard very successful. JPEG's transition process also is a witness that science, technology, media, and information should be borderless. The diversity of experts in the JPEG committee, since its start, and still continues to be so, is yet another proof that diversity creates success. On behalf of JPEG, I'd like to thank the Academy for this very prestigious distinction. Thank you.
So the J in JPEG stands for joint. It was a partnership of 3 of the biggest standards organizations in the world, the ITU, ISO, and IEC. I'm here on behalf of the ITU to express the ITU's appreciation for this recognition. Of course, the groups have been very proud of this great standard that has, and this partnership. The partnership, I suppose, has lasted more than 30 years now, and is showing no signs of fading away. The JPEG standard is how the world communicates in pictures, and we're very appreciative of this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, and this is a great honor to receive such engineering Emmy for JPEG committee. Actually, JPEG 1 standard was developed. It was about 30 years ago, and at the time I was still a graduate student. But now today, JPEG is used everywhere, every time. It's difficult to find time to not to use a JPEG. So it's a great achievement of a JPEG committee. So thank you very much.
Hi, I just want to say thanks very much. I kind of squeaked in here at the last minute. My name's Greg Wallace. I work for a company called Apple. And I think a guy that was important to Apple got quoted a minute ago, so that's great. At the time JPEG started, I worked for a company called Digital Equipment Corporation, also known as DEC. How many here have heard of that company? That's great, because where I work, anybody under 40 would not have raised their hand. Anyway, it sounds impossible, but at the time I got involved with DEC, or with JPEG, there was the only data type in computers was text. And we actually had the crazy idea that images could become a standard data type in computers. So anyhow, I was the guy that was the chairman and editor of the JPEG standard when it was first created, and it's just fantastic to be up here. And I want to say thanks to a few people. I don't know if I'm supposed to name names, but I want to say thanks to Graham Hudson, the original JPEG chairman, to Alan Leger, one of the key contributors, also Bjorn Niss and Jorgen Waben. And in a moment, we're going to hear from Istvan Sebastian, a little bit more about the history. And I'll just say, for those of you that know, that there's another thing I've been involved with at Apple called ProRes, which was largely inspired by JPEG.
So thank you very much, Greg. So actually, Greg was the second JPEG chairman. And there were a couple of JPEG chairmen, but he was an excellent one. At the same time, he was also an excellent editor of the standard. So I myself have been working in standardization, well, for 35 years, so which is a terribly long. So all these kids here are much, much younger in terms of everything and also standardization. And I have to say that this was one of my first projects in standardization, the JPEG project. And I have seen in my life thousands and thousands of standards, really, during these first 35 years. And I have to say that I have seen bad standard, good standard, but very, very few standards which I call miracle standards, standardization wonders. And standardization wonders are those standards where a standard is really dominating the market. And the JPEG standard is, for me also, and also for Greg, I am sure, it is a miracle that we succeeded, and actually we didn't expect that we would succeed with that. And so why did it happen? And I have to say that everything in that standardization, it was abnormal, it was orthogonal, so which was not like usual. So the group itself, the JPEG group, was not an ISO group, not an ITU group, not an IEC group, but it was just an ad hoc group of technical experts. And the reason for that was that in 1986, when we started to do JPEG, there were simply no joint working procedures among the three organizations. And nevertheless, we have found out, what would be the best way to create a standard. It worked. One of the points which was here mentioned was, for instance, the royalty-free patent policy. Even today, those three organizations have a patent policy which is not royalty-free, but it is a so-called RAND standardization policy. But for JPEG, we felt that it has to be royalty-free, otherwise, nobody will take it. And actually, we were right, so we had a good feeling about it. The members, thank you very much. The members of the group were simple engineers, about 15 to 20 people. And they were obviously excellent engineers in terms of compression, then image storage, image communication, etc. And the group worked about 4 years to work out the specification. So it was not yet an ISO draft or ITU draft, etc. It was a JPEG specification. So we had our own rules, our own procedures. And in 1990, we were ready with this specification, and then we gave it to 3 different directions. So the first direction was for approval of this specification by the ITU. Then the second one was for GTC1, so ISO IEC. And the third one, it went immediately to the groups which have created killer applications. And one of the killer applications was the independent JPEG group, who did open source JPEG, and this is today very, very modern. And the second one, which was already waiting as a killer application, it was the World Wide Web. In the World Wide Web, they needed immediately from the very beginning still pictures. And then what we did not expect, that after this 2 killer application, also further killer application came. And this was for the group completely unexpected. One further killer application was, for instance, the digital photography. We never thought that we would be able to kill the analog photography, but we were one of the components that we succeeded. Then we didn't expect, because no mobile phones existed, that, for instance, photography on mobile phones, that would be also a killer application in the year 2000. And then 2007, with the iPhone and the smartphones, also we didn't expect the smartphone. So altogether, this series of the killer application made JPEG really as a miracle and wonderful standard. And so last but not least, I also would like to thank my family, and I have here my daughter Sylvia here. And then Sylvia was born at the time when we have created JPEG. And my family didn't see me too much. And my last story about is the following. When her mother asked, "Where is Dad?" Then she showed on the wall a picture, and that was my picture. And it was an analog picture, not a digital picture. Thank you very much.